गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. ओम 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 नारायण. We were doing fifth chapter. We have just started. The introduction we have been discussing. Arjuna had a question. His question was like this. His question is, the first shloka says, Sanyasam karmanam Krishna punar yogam cha shamsase yachreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sinischitam. Now, Arjuna says that you praise first sannyasa. That means giving up karma. You talk of renouncing karma. Karma means a life of activity. You praise the life of renunciation on one side. Again you are advising me to take up again karma as a means of moksha. Now this confuses me. Arjuna says, this confuses me. Now tell me clearly what you want to tell me. Yachreya etayorekam, between these two, whether should I continue the karma or should renounce? One side you say karma doesn't give you liberation. In fact, karma being within that cause and effect, karma being a part of cause and effect, you say it can't give you liberation. It can't free you from all your samsara. And again you praise the same, again you advise me. You praise renunciation, but advise me to do karma. This is what contradicts me. See, he says, you praise one, but advise you, while praising renunciation, you are denouncing karma. Karma means the life of activity. While praising renunciation, you have denounced karma. But again, you advise me to live a life of karma. Now, this confuses me. This is a contradiction and also confuses me. Therefore, you tell me exactly once again clearly, should I renounce all karma? In fact, that's what I proposed in the beginning in the first chapter. At the end of the first chapter, Arjuna told, this work is full of conflict because I have to wage war, and waging the war is against our relatives, for whose sake we want this victory. For whose sake we want this victory. We want to wage the war. We have prepared ourselves for this war. The very people, today I think a lot of disturbance. So the very people, for sake of whom we want to wage the war, we want to please them, we want to have a victory for them, the same people, having given up the hope of living, they have come here to the battlefield and decided to lay down their lives. Lay down their lives, ready to give up their lives for sake of battle. Now it is too much contradiction. Arjuna says, people, we want victory for sake of them and they are ready to die in the battle. And then what purpose it is? It's all confusing. And do we want really money and property and kingdom and all? If we get it, what will you do? Because we want to enjoy them along with our relatives. The very relatives are willing to die and ready to die. It's a very contradiction. So this is meaningless. So that's why he told, better give up this hope of victory, property, kingdom, and pleasing our relatives. I think we won't be able to please them because it's all contradiction. Therefore, better renounce everything, stay in the forest. All these years we have lived in forest alone. Arjuna says, all these years we have lived in forest. Now let me continue in the forest. Okay. Let me continue in the forest, and then it's okay. I think life will be okay. Sri Krishna says, I understand. You are not interested in the property, money, wealth, in short, worldly pleasures. Okay? You don't want worldly pleasures, I understand. That means you discovered worldly pleasures are very small. There is something a deeper one for life. There is something deeper as a goal for life. So the money, pleasure, relationships, they look very small. See, this Vedanta becomes very difficult. People say if Vedanta is great, teach it to everybody in the world. Announce it from the what you call, from the platforms, or in the like an advertisement. Come everybody, learn that you are Brahman and you will be liberated. See, this is too childish to talk. Vedanta is, it talks of a deeper truth, the absolute truth of life, and that needs a particular state of mind. Vedanta cannot be understood by everybody. We have to give them certain lower level of sadhanas, a simple sadhanas, because what makes you mature enough to be able to understand Vedanta is the preparation, the purity of mind, the maturity of mind, and that everybody doesn't have in the same way. Everybody doesn't have the maturity level, the maturity of understanding in the same level. See, the people love different things. Some people love money, some people pleasure, some people some adventure, some people something else. All kinds of things people love. If you see, these days cell phones are there in your hands. You can open and see them. My God, what a variety. Oh, so everybody is not prepared, everybody is not mature enough to seek the absolute truth. Unless you have a jignasa, unless your mind is prepared and discovers the value for the absolute truth, you can't teach him. Even if you teach, he won't be able to grasp it. For him, it looks Vedanta is only just a time pass, only theoretical and doesn't do anything. And what gives you joy is something else. Okay. Therefore, people have to discover that the small things like money, pleasure, name and fame, status, the power, all these things should look small. They look small only when your heart grows deeper and purer. This is the maturity. That's what we are talking of, and it's difficult for everybody. People are at their different levels. Most of the people like simple things alone: money, pleasure, security, and only these things. If you talk of deep philosophy, they think it is all theoretical and it's useless. What will you do with that and all? Okay. So a person who first crosses, that's why in Vedanta we have got Chaturvidha Purushartha. In Hindu religion, we talk of Chaturvidha Purushartha. Purushartha is a goal of life. We talk fourfold goal of life. First, man means a human being, a person is interested in simple pleasures. Okay. And you can see the baby, how the baby starts its life. Baby loves a simple, comfortable, pleasurable life. Even the play, everything is a play. Just enjoy entertainment, simple basic needs of life, and then rest of the time is entertainment, enjoyment. That's all baby loves. And once it grows, then baby understands that these pleasures and entertainments won't come easily. You need some money. Then they start taking interest in money. Before that, Whenever you need something, you ask the parents and they'll give you your playthings, your dolls and etc. playthings, and you play with them. After some time, you understand others have better things and you don't have, and you won't get them unless you have money. Oh, you realize the importance of money. Once you know the money, then you learn how to earn money. First you need pleasures, comforts. Okay. Second comes the money, because money can buy many pleasures and comforts and entertainments and all those things, because that can happen with many things. You need many things and people. You need people as well as things to enjoy and be in their company, entertainment and all that. For that, money is required. Without money, these things can't be earned. Therefore, you look for money. First, you ask the people, other people. You being a small boy, others will give you, parents will give you, others will give you. As you grow up, then your needs go up. Then you see their simple money, their pocket money they give is not enough. The gifts are not enough. You have to earn. Because gift will be a small amount. They can't give you, they can't look after whole your life, all your luxurious items nobody can give you. You have to earn for yourself. They can give you basic needs. Or if you are a baby, they will buy a toy for you, a plaything for you. But not all the time. If you want a bigger thing, then you have to earn for it. Then you start thinking how to make money. Okay. In the beginning, you think that anything you get easily, you just earn. Anything you get, any by small thing. But later you start thinking of the same money, you taste the money. Okay. See how the human mind learns, grows and keeps changing. You got a taste of money. Taste of money means you found the security money gives. You find the comfort the money gives. You find the freedom that money gives. Then you learn that, oh, you get a taste of the money. Now you want a regular income, higher income. Okay. For that regular and higher income, you need a higher knowledge or some technical knowledge, some kind of a knowledge which you can sell it to the society and make money. Okay. Sell it to the society and make money. In the process, your taste also increases. You want a friend circle, you want a friend, boyfriend, girlfriend or wife or husband. Now the taste also changes now. Even the kinds of pleasures you love also change. Now one side you want the love and pleasures and comforts and all that. Intimacy, relationship. Along with then the money which can fetch me all these things. Relationship with people and the objects to enjoy. So these two things require money and a social status and what you call the skill and the other things. Okay. Now you start money. Two things you learned. That's why we call them first Kama Purushartha. Kama means pleasures. Okay, all kinds of pleasures. Not only particular one, all kinds of pleasures. Then the next comes the money. Money buys the things. Money also guarantees you for tomorrow. Otherwise, you will have to work hard and then you will be busy in working hard alone and you have no time for enjoyment. Therefore, if you have a plenty of money, reserved money for tomorrow, bank balance you can enjoy tomorrow. The same thing, you can enjoy a little more comfortable life. Then you want that income should be a steady income, regular income. Then the steady regular means you have to have some skill, some technical skill, some knowledge, some capacity so that you can do something and make money. You can use your talent, skill or something to the world, useful to the world. In the process, you develop another Purushartha. What is the social status? Okay, if you don't have the social status, you may get money, but still you don't get good friend circle, good money, and then you need in a society a respect. Then in the process, a little ego develops. You need a good status, dignity, respect, and also a power. Power means a position. Otherwise, you will be treated like a servant. They'll give you money, but they'll treat you like a servant. So you need little intellectual happiness also, that is a dignity, respect, status. That also gives you a kind of a joy. Okay. Then you want this dignity, respect, social relationship and a dignified way. Then some kind of a law comes into picture. You have to follow some law. some order. You can't be illegal, you can't make money. You may make it a few times, but that again you can't live in the society with a dignity and respect, self-respect. Okay, the third one, right, first is pleasures, comforts and entertainment. Second comes is and relationship, emotional relationship, physical pleasures and all that. Second comes is the money. Money gives the security and tomorrow's guarantee, assurance about your comforts tomorrow. Then as you are earning these two, a third one also becomes a necessary. Your mind also grows and the society also makes it necessary. What is that? The status. Just now I told. A status, dignified, respectable status. Dignified, respectable status, a position, as power. So that, and also you need a dignity and position, then you have to be a very gentleman, cultured man, virtuous man. You can't be a corrupt man and command respect in the society. So that there comes the dharma. The third one comes is the dharma. Dharma gives you an order of society, an order, a disciplined life, an orderly life. Orderly life, disciplined life and interaction. When you interact with people also, you need certain discipline, certain virtue, certain values. Okay. Otherwise, you are the other two purusharthas, that is the pleasures and the money. Pleasures and the wealth, in short, wealth. The pleasures and wealth you won't be able to command regularly, systematically, and to your advantage, to your satisfaction, unless you follow the virtue. You have to follow some law, some virtue. So dharma. Third comes dharma. Dharma means virtue, values. Okay, in these things, there is still see how the human mind grows. Grows means when the mind grows, it becomes sensitive. It becomes sensitive to a deeper needs. Needs are there. The baby cannot understand certain needs. You see them? The baby cannot understand. Baby only cries when it needs something. Only elderly people, and they cannot explain to them, you see, you keep this properly, don't throw away the money given to you, preserve it, and you can go. Can you explain, and can the baby understand? Even if you explain, baby is unable to understand. Baby has to grow. Your inner mind has to grow, which realizes it. So as you grow, mind starts realizing the need of virtue, dignified life, a man of values, a person of values, all that comes. Then the mind also becomes a little more sensitive, little more mature. Now you want little artistic mind. The same pleasures you want to add a little artistic. Otherwise, simple pleasures look too animalistic. See, simply eating with your sense organs and having pleasures looks too superficial. Then mind wants in the same pleasure an element of heart also. Heartless pleasures you can enjoy, but that's a baby. You just eat and enjoy, that's okay. It's not eating alone. You a kind of a love and respect and sympathy and compassion, kindness. These little emotional aspect also you want to add to it. Otherwise, simple physical pleasures look too animalistic. They don't satisfy. A few times you enjoy and you feel that you're bored. You need little deeper happiness. The deeper means your emotional element has to be added. Therefore, you want a little values, relationship should be respectable, then the love and the relationship, friendliness. Friendliness gives you joy. Some love also gives you joy. Then also you learn that if you work for others, you help others, you sacrifice means you help others, you love others, care for others, gift others, you take responsibility. See, these are all values, virtues and values. So you take responsibility, achieve something, you get a joy in achievement. You get a joy in working hard. Okay, you get a joy because that's not a material joy. It is a deeper joy which your human heart can understand. You may get money freely, but it's okay. How long you can enjoy it? You get a joy in working hard, making your own money. Okay, taking responsibility, working hard, you get that you achieve a success. In that success, you get a joy. Okay, these are all psychological, intellectual. So the emotion is involved. You want a simple love, a selfless love. Because first, material pleasure, physical pleasure is not enough. You wanted to add an element of emotion also. When emotion is added, the physical joy becomes redoubled. It becomes a deeper joy. See how human mind discovers deeper needs. Okay, the mind has to grow in terms of maturity. Then the emotional element you have added. Even in that emotional element, again, you want to take responsibility, work for others, help them, and achieve success. That gives you some kind of ideals. You have a good ideals and values. See, you work for values, you work for ideals. That gives you greater joy than the simple pleasure and emotional pleasure. Okay, simple physical pleasure or emotional joy, emotional sentimental joy. Okay, art also gives you art, music, and something. Then you want something deeper in that also again. Okay, first physical pleasure, then some kind of a social dignity, then some kind of a art and music, emotional, and then again you go into deeper. You want to take a responsibility, be a better person, and you work hard. Even in that, you want to lose your individuality and work for a higher value. That gives you some kind of a deeper joy, deeper satisfaction, which the simple worldly pleasures, material pleasures won't give you. See how mind grows in terms of spirituality. Then you start thinking of life, what is life, and this is man, is a person, human being limited to body alone, is something more than body. Because the needs of the body, the bodily identification is not enough. Then you want to think of a society and a nation and values and etc. Then your identification is more than the physical body. Then you want at the level of mind, then at the level of intellect. Then the mind thinks, okay, I am born, and as a human being I live in this body. Then what happens? After some time I will die. Then what will happen to my life later? After death, what will happen? Then you want to think of your existence larger than physical body. Okay, body, human life is not limited, is not bound by birth and death. Before birth we existed, after death we exist. Then it looks that life has got a deeper purpose and a deeper existence, a larger existence, a longer existence. It exists even beyond the body, even after death of the body. Okay, after the death of the body, if I exist, because religion tells that you exist even beyond the body. Even after the death of the body, you continue to exist. So when I exist, then what am I? Am I something more than the body? Definitely. Then body seems to be one part, one small part. But I seem to be something more than the body. Body is one small part. Therefore, only bodily level pleasures alone doesn't satisfy me. Human being is something more than body. Emotion, sentiment. Then sentiment also okay, but even sentiment also gives you joy up to certain extent. Then it looks that something more than the sentiment. Even the sentiment has to be much deepened. Even if sentiment gives you joy, it has to be again further deepened. Because if ego is involved in the sentiment, the same sentiment hurts you. See, you love person, but again if you have an ego along with the love, you get hurt. The same love hurts you. Love combined with ego hurts you. Then you have to sacrifice the ego also. Then you discover, oh, life requires something more than simple love and sentiment, and then physical pleasure. Oh, what is that more? Then sense of individuality. You need self-respect. You need self-confidence. But even self-confidence, self-respect is also not permanent. It gets shaken. The emotional love and respect and love and care also is not enough, because even that hurts. Love also hurts you. See, love is such a very difficult thing. People think, see, in the modern films say love is great and all that. I tell you, love is highly dangerous. Love is great, is very attractive, but at the same time it deeply hurts you. It deeply gives you joy. At the same time it deeply hurts you. You will take years together to recover once you are hurt. Once you are hurt in any emotional relationship, either with your parents or your beloved ones or children or friends or anywhere, once you are hurt, oh, recovery becomes very, very difficult. In fact, some people take decades, go into depression, it becomes unbearable. Oh. the modern civilization creates more problems. You know them. We all know them. We see the people around. Partly we also go through. We know them. Okay. Then you understand love is good. We don't say love is bad, but there is something more. Something, at least something additional to it. What is that? There is an element of ego in it that we have to melt away the ego, transcend the ego, something more. So that individuality, therefore you become a little more religious person. You try to selflessly serve the people and selfless love. Then you learn from the religious God and service and love and all that. Okay, the prayers and the rituals. Rituals give you little more deeper feelings. But they also again has a limitation. Even there also there is some limitation. Again, the relationship with your God, again the question comes, why I should love him? And God also has got certain limitation. You pray, certain things won't happen. You pray to him, you expect, you do rituals, you offer service to people, but sometimes there is a limit to it. In spite of service, in spite of loving, in spite of prayers, sometimes you seem to fail, and the pleasures you get, the joy you get, seems that are not enough. They also have a limitations. Even the religious joy, religious pleasure is also a limitation. Whichever world you go, even if you go to heaven, heaven is not going to be permanent. These are all fools, I tell you. They are fooling us. There are certain religions, they tell you eternal heaven. That is nonsense. I think a child alone can believe, or a fool can believe that the heaven can be eternal. Because heaven is a field, is a world. You go there. Once you go there, you don't go just for nothing. You go as a result of some religious virtuous activity. Some religious virtuous prayers, and then service, prayers and rituals, and some kind of religious act, holy act. The holy act, religious act also brings about some religious merit called punya. Punya is also gives you a certain higher level of pleasures. But the punya is also limited. You can't be eternally in heaven. Suppose you remain eternally heaven, as certain religions say. Certain religions, particularly coming from outside India, they talk of eternal heaven. Okay, let us tentatively assume that heaven is eternal. I tell you, human mind is such that once it gets used to certain pleasure, certain happiness, certain level of joy, after some time you get bored with it. In the beginning, any new joy, any new happiness looks happiness in the beginning for few days, few months, or few years. After a few years, it becomes outdated, it becomes boring, then you look for something new. You look for a deeper level, because human mind keeps growing. You understand? Human mind keeps growing. It is not stagnant. It is not. People think that those religions think that going to heaven and give you certain pleasure, some playthings, some toys, some toffees, and you enjoy and live there. I say these are all babies heaven. Baby loves some playthings and some eatables, some sweets, some chocolates, some toffees, and then you enjoy and live there. And you play cricket and you have gardens. How long you enjoy the gardens? After some time you will be bored and you want something else again. After some time you feel bored with the garden and toffees, and what will you do? Then you want something else. Where will you go? Heaven looks too small. God also looks too small. The God who offered heaven, you go and talk to the God. God says that if the God is only according to the Abrahamic religions. The God says that even I am living in this heaven alone. Heaven is the highest things I know. Even I also only know the gardens and toffees alone. I don't know anything more. Or maximum I'll give you some kind of soup. Okay. Or some kind of angels there. But even angels of friendship also is a limitation. After some time you will be bored and you look for something else. Where will you go? Where will you go? Kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. Our Hindu Shastras are very mature here. They understand even heaven is also certain. Because all this is to be understood in the light of human mind. See, the human mind keeps growing. It discovers, enjoys certain pleasures. And it feels fed up with it. And again it wants something new, a deeper one, a larger one, a wider, broader one. Okay? So all these things we have to go through, we have to pass. These are all various steps. Higher and higher steps we have to grow. Human mind has to grow. If you don't grow, sometimes what happens? You get addicted. Some people get addicted to drinking. Some people get addicted to some kind of pleasures. Some people get addicted to some kind of emotional love, fall in love, and there alone they get stuck. That means they are not growing psychologically much deeper. So it is kind of an addiction. They remain at there alone. The addiction becomes over addiction, extreme. Then somebody treats you, psychologists, etc. You become slightly better. Again you indulge in pleasures. Again you get addicted to money, because the human mind doesn't discover the importance of values and art and poems and deeper. Even in the art there are different degrees of art. There are simple art, little deeper art, and little more religious and spiritual art. At least in India we can see clearly. Even poetry also, there is an ordinary poetry, or there is a little virtuous poetry. Then there is a still higher one, is a spiritual poetry. Then you have to go into a deeper one. Prayers also. There are simple prayers, worldly prayers. Then you call religious prayers. Then you got much more deeper prayer, is much more spiritual prayers. Everything at certain stage you enjoy, and you feel that they are small. You wonder yourself, what I enjoyed before, I sincerely enjoyed, wholeheartedly earn it and enjoy. Yet after few months or years, you feel that those level of pleasures look small. You wonder, what is wrong with me? Is it wrong with me, or is it wrong with the very nature of pleasure? Supposing you love some music and some art, after some time you feel bored with it, you feel that it is enough, you want another one. You wonder what happened. Is something wrong with music, or wrong with my mind? What is wrong? Why do you want something else then again after some time? Even the relationships also. You want another relationship. After some time you will be bored with it. Now people want a change. The changes are of two levels. One is at the same level you want an alternatives, different ones. Another is your very level changes. Your mind becomes mature. Your mind becomes mature. You want from the lower level of joy to the still higher level of joy. Music also has deeper levels. Poetry also has deeper levels. Service also has deeper levels. And then prayer also has got still deeper levels. Everything of life has got still deeper. Any relations, the relation itself should become holy and divine. Earlier it was simple, casual. Later it becomes an attachment, a mechanical relationship. Later it becomes an attachment. Then it becomes a love. Then the love also has to become further selfless. Then the ego has to melt. That's the most painful thing. People don't know how to melt the ego. They suffer. They understand ego is my problem. In fact, some people don't understand that the ego is my problem. They think the other side has cheated me. Other side, the person has cheated me whom I love. I fell in love, they have cheated me. Then you become a very hero, and you imagine that you fell in love, you are frustrated, you have been cheated, and then these are all things psychological trip. You create that you are a victim of somebody's cheating, and then you start indulging in self-pity, and then all kind of things. Once you start indulging in self-pity, then addiction enters into anything. Alcoholic or emotional relationship, money and power and everything. All these things become addictions. You won't grow, you want to accumulate more and more and more in that. Quantitatively you want to expand. Length of it you want to expand, but not qualitatively. Many people don't grow. How can you say teach Vedanta to everybody? We have tried and we have been trying. It doesn't work for many people. Because people have to be still mature, more mature people. So, person sincerely, wholeheartedly should live this life. Wholeheartedly try what is responsibility, what is emotional love, what is physical pleasure, or artistic pleasure, or poetic pleasure, all kinds of things, the prayers, service, and religious pleasure, religious joy, all that you try. You find they are good at certain level. Compared to still others, they are much better. You enjoy them for some time, later you feel they look mechanical. That means your mind is growing. Your mind is growing. It wants still deeper things. Deeper things. Okay. Therefore, karma is not simple karma. One is a ordinary mechanical karma. Karma means activity. Then later you have a purposeful karma. One is a simple mechanical karma, entertainment. Later you have a purposeful karma with certain success and responsibility and all that. The same karma, the same activity you do with responsibility. Because the responsibility, when you fulfill take responsibility and wield and fulfill the responsibility, then you get a joy in it. Okay? You achieve something with hard work, sincerely, in an orderly way, in a disciplined way. The very discipline gives you a joy. Hard working gives you joy. Sincerely working gives you joy. With certain purpose and ideals. You have a certain ideal, certain values. Work for them. That gives you greater joy than the simple worldly pleasures. In fact, people love to lose money, love to lose the physical pleasures for sake of these deeper joys. Okay? Even this deeper means a psychological level. So you have to be still growing. You have to be a person who grows even from that psychological joys. Then your mind feels that all these are very small. Worldly pleasures, even psychological happiness is okay. It is okay as long as it goes. But a time comes you feel they are also limited. So people stuck to relations, emotions, responsibilities, power, they feel, after some time they feel there is some limitation in it, but they don't know what else to do. They continue in that emotional relationship, they continue in the money and power and status. You know they are limited, they look very small, but you don't know what is other. Is there anything other than this? We don't know. Therefore people remain there alone. At that stage, if a person listens to Vedanta, instantly he feels that, yes, this is what I want. How does Vedanta know? This is what my heart tells me. I acquired money, pleasure, status, art, music, dance, poetry, etc. I enjoyed them sincerely. I worked for them. Sincerely I achieved. I took responsibility and fulfilled them. I got some joy. But still I feel something is missing. Something is missing in me. Where to go? So all these called noble values and virtues also give you some happiness, but again they have certain limitations. Then mind looks at, is there any better one? We don't know, because the worldly life gives you only those things. Then when you approach a guru, then the gurus, or at least the guru's teaching, Vedantic teaching, comes to your ears. Either you happen to go there, listen to them, or they will come to you in some manner. This teaching comes to your ears, falls on your ears. Then you feel instantly, if you are mature enough already, if you have gone through worldly experiences of this world and other world, religious experiences and the worldly experiences, and your mind is sincere and wholehearted, not conditioned by dogma or extremism and all that. If you get addicted to them, you will be going round and round like a vicious circle. Like in a vicious circle, you will remain there alone. Enjoy the worldly pleasures and take holiday for a few days. Again you enjoy, again take holiday. That looks too addicting. Addiction doesn't give you a deeper joy. Okay. Then mind looks for it. I am not happy with what I am, but I don't know what is the other one. Is there anything better than these things? I have no idea. At that stage, when you have grown to this level, then if you approach a teacher, or the teaching comes to you in some manner through books or audio, video, or direct listening, some manner you get to hear Vedantic ideas, Vedantic teaching. Or you, out of your curiosity, may go to them and listen to them. You may take interest. Or you may take interest, or the life itself provides you certain other ones. If you are mature enough, your mind is looking for a deeper joy, a deeper happiness, deeper security. Otherwise, you will be a mechanical person and you lose and again enjoy the same thing, again lose. Then you get addicted and you remain there. Okay. Therefore, if you happen to hear Vedantic teaching in some manner, wherever, in whichever culture, whichever society you are, whether Indian or European or American or African, whichever society you live, if you have this kind of thinking, that is Vedanta. Okay. Vedanta means it talks of a deeper values, deeper needs of life, deeper needs of the human heart, a deeper purpose. By achieving that purpose, your mind becomes really overwhelmed with joy. Really joy, really joy. Oh, it's beyond expression. You can't express how happy you are. Okay. So in your bottom of your heart, somewhere it suspects that all is not well. I've got success in life, I achieved some name and fame and status, and then money and pleasure. My relatives are good, my family friends are good people, I've got good friends. Everything is okay, but there seems to be something missing, something missing. That means mind wants something deeper. Where can I get? Therefore, you approach a guru. Either you go to guru or guru comes to you. In some manner it happens, you come to hear Vedanta. Vedanta tells you this kind of a joy and happiness that you are enjoying, and partly you discover that they are not enough. Your mind wants something deeper, something more. Then what happens? Then with the help of Guru's teaching, you come to discover that there is something deeper goal of life, having achieved which your mind becomes completely free. You are totally free. No bondage, nothing at all. You are really free. So even these words, when you hear, you get a hope. Oh, there is something deeper one. The education system, the society, the worldly knowledge, competition, they won't give you. Competitive life will give you some worldly pleasure, some worldly objects, but not that spiritual happiness. Okay, then such mind is prepared and ready for Vedanta. He may not be able to put the question properly, he or she. Sometimes I see them, people try hard to put a question, they don't know how to present the case, but the mind understands something vaguely. So even if they are unable to put the question properly, we take the question and we straighten it, we rearrange the question properly and present him and help him to understand. He also, the questioner says, yes, this is what I want. Yes. I was unable to present my question properly. Now, after you clarified it, yes, this is what I want. My heart tells me. Instantly, your heart reflects it and shows us, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want. It is there in my subconscious mind. I did not realize it. Yes, what you say, I have understood now. That means mind is capable of enjoying a deeper pleasure, enjoying a deeper existence, enjoying a deeper happiness. Okay. So, it is at that time when you teach Vedanta, it works. He appreciates, he understands. Otherwise, if Vedanta becomes an academic subject, you get PhD and you get money, I think it's a boring and childish. Therefore, Arjuna's question is, let me pursue. I know the work involves tension, worry, stress, physical stress and psychological, physical strain, psychological stress. It creates a psychological tension. And after some time you feel that you are bored with them and they are not so worth achieving them. Since you don't know any other alternative, okay, let me continue routinely. It's only a routine, not any enthusiasm in it. You feel that they are no more arouse enthusiasm in you as they used to be. Now they look very small. Then where will you go? Then they say certain odd religions and odd spirituality is Hinduism. It is odd for them. In fact, for us, it's never odd because we have been living the same spirituality, same religion. The odd comes because you don't know. The name odd, you use them because mind has grown mature. It has understood the life sufferings and experiences. Now it is looking for a deeper one. As that Guru presents certain points, you instantly touches your heart. You feel, yes, this is what I want. Yes, this is what I want. I was unable to present, but my subconscious mind tells me, yes, this is what I want. If you feel like that, then you are fit for Vedanta. Otherwise, everything is only theory and theoretical, and they tell you something new which you have never tested, never seen this thing, then you don't know what to say. You get addicted and then certain routine life and then remain there mechanically. So therefore, once you discover this, then you become a mumukshu or a jignasu. Okay. Then he is a jignasu, he is an aspirant of truth, he is a speaker, he is a seeker of truth. He is seeking the ultimate aim of life. Why am I here talking to you and doing all those stuff, all sorts of things? So this maturity prepares you for Vedanta. Then other than Brahman, other than the truth of life, all other things, pleasures, status, money and all those should look small to you. Not that artificially you call it small. The mind should grow inwardly. It should grow inwardly and vast. It becomes large-hearted. It loves forgiving. It loves easily sacrificing for others. It loves easily forgiving. The prayers also, he touches them very nishkama prayer. All those things. Then gradually, what happens? He understands there is something deeper things to life. Somewhere something is wrong, somewhere something is missing. It is at that time when you teach Vedanta. Instantly he gets it, yes, this is what I want. Abba, why nobody else taught me? Because this understanding we find in Hinduism. When a person is frustrated, he looks for something deeper one. So he was asked, the common people were asked to follow certain values, certain discipline, certain artistic or poetic pursuits. Artistic, poetic means you may not be artist, but at least you can appreciate others' paintings and art. Okay, you may not be a poet, but you can appreciate others' poems written by others. Okay, so this way, mind discovers the limitations of lower level of joy, and mind grows mature and it wants something deeper one. Okay, I think we'll stop. Then at this stage, a small point I'll give you introduction, so we'll continue in the next class, next week I think. So here Arjuna was advised renunciation. Arjuna thought that just physically giving up, as I touched in my previous class, like a Gandhiji and Thoreau, you give up the worldly life, follow certain values, live alone in your life and have the needs and the desires also will be less. Your basic needs, you need some vegetables and some few things, some food and clothes, do little bit thing and spend time in enjoying the music, natural beauty and all those things. Okay. So in these things you understand the limitations, that they are limited. They can't give you anymore the deeper joy which your human heart is seeking. Therefore, these pleasures and happiness give you to certain extent, but they have limitations. Then the mind goes to the next level, higher level, next step. This is where if you touch Vedanta, mind should feel that yes, this is what I want, this is what I want. Otherwise, mind cannot appreciate. It doesn't grow. A grown-up mind wants to understand the absolute truth. Then we can teach him according to the need, according to his maturity level. People say, let us teach Vedanta to everybody. It is just a words alone. People get simply words and certain concepts and they think that they have understood Vedanta and they are living Vedantins. Therefore, when Arjuna says, why are you asking me to again engage in karma? Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Krishna, one side says transcend karma, renounce karma. Another side says that you undertake karma so that you will be prepared for moksha. Now this creates a doubt in Arjuna's mind. Arjuna says, first you praise renunciation and again Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam cha samshasi. Yatshreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sinischitam. Now, having determined what is right between these two for me, please select one for me. Because I am not able to select for myself. So such person, when who grows, he wants, then once you touch, this is what I want, then you will be surprised to see that yes, I want the absolute truth. Nothing satisfies me. Like this, people are at different levels. We can't generalize them. We understand there is a lot of variety even in person-to-person relationship, person to person. There's so much of change, so much of variety. Therefore, Arjuna has to be taught. This is the misunderstanding of Arjuna. He thinks just like live like Gandhiji and Thoreau in a lonely place, in a forest-like life, that gives you joy. That also will frustrate you after some time. Because if your mind is mature enough, it sees that something more than this, you need it. Something more than it. That's where the Gita and Upanishads teach you, yes, there is absolute truth, there is more to it, and you have to learn it, and it is learnable. You can learn it. Only thing is you need a proper mind and service to it. You will get it. Okay. So Arjuna says, you are asking me to go for karma, to undertake karma, a life of karma. But the karma itself is a vicious circle, like a cause and effect, I get stuck there. I won't transcend cause and effect relationship. How can I do that? So this is the prashna. So Bhagwan Shankaracharya gives very excellent answer to all those things. I think we will discuss tomorrow in the next class. I hope I am continuing from my previous class. I think I am continuing from the previous class. Then the next class, we will touch the same thing from another angle and make it further clear. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.